Working with material from pallets is all the rage these days. So what we want to look at here is giving you some advice on if you want to do this in your shop, what do you need to do to try to get a pallet apart and get that wood out of it? And then what do we do to protect equipment to make sure nothing bad is going to happen to our woodworking tools when we're working with pallet wood. So first thing, let's look at a little bit of disassembly. I'm going to make this crazy easy. And step one, we're going to go with a Saber Saw, jigsaw, and running the blade right along the rail on the outside of the pallet. How's that? Mission accomplished. Now there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is it was really easy to get that piece out of the pallet. The bad news is it's crazy short. If that lends itself to your projects, that is far and away the easiest way to get wood out of a pallet. Let's look at a couple other options. So we're going to talk about and use a flat bar and a cat's paw. So here's what we're up against. A lot of times pallets are put together with pneumatic nailers and they use spiral nails. So the spiral nails, the thread isn't quite like a screw thread, but it's almost like that. It's a little bit slower spiral. But pneumatic nails means, pneumatic nailer, they really sink the heads below the surface of the wood. Spiral on the nail means it really gets a good bite into the material. And so it can make it really hard to get a grip and get these parts apart. If the pallet is made out of hardwood, and a lot of times they are, then that makes it even worser because the harder the wood, the better grip that that nail is going to have. Not a bad idea to throw on a pair of gloves because these things can be pretty splintery. So here's what I'm going to try first with the flat bar, and that is to come in under the edge of a piece and gently pry up. And the gently part is going to be important here because it's pretty easy to splinter this stuff. And what I'd like to do is get the wood to start, then push the wood back down and come after the nail head. So let's see how this works. I'm going to come in here, pry up, real easy. See if I gained enough. All right, nail head is already starting to come out. You can see how those spiral nails really have a bite. All right, we might have just busted the head off of that one, so we're going to deal with that some more later. This is what we're up against. Big crack. Let's try her on this side, nice and gentle. And then back down to see if we can get to the head. Now on this one, instead of the flat bar on the head, let's try our cat's paw. And the reason being, this might give us a better bite on the body of the nail. Not quite up enough yet. There we go. That's the sound of a nail pulling. This is a tough one. All right, I'm going to take a new approach here. There we go. So what I was doing with the hammer is tapping on the cat's paw to help seat it on the nail. That doesn't bother me much. I'm going to show you a way to go after those. All right, it's going to be more of the same. So I'm going to keep working on this pallet, and I'm going to get what I can off of it. Oh, yay. All right, there's a good view of the spiral nail that we're up against. So I'm going to keep going after these boards, see what else I can get off of here. The other thing that we can do with a cat's paw, if you can't get under the board or it's not bringing the nail with it, the benefit to the cat's paw is with those sharp tips, we can drive that under the nail head. The bad news is we're going to put a big dig in the surface here. If you do this approach, you want to go with the grain, not across the grain. So starting in kind of a downward direction, we got to drive it under the nail head. And I'm taking it real easy on the pull, trying to get that nail started. There we go. If you like rustic, we're giving it to you. All right, back to work for me. Then we'll come back and have a look at a few more things going on here. Let me give you a flat bar subtlety. When I drive that flat bar in, I want to get it in as far as I can so that if we look inside here, a nail's down in there and I drive this in, I'd like to have that flat bar surrounding the nail. So when I start to pry and the pressure's coming up, I'm completely surrounding the head of that nail, and that's going to help reduce the amount of cracking that we get. And you'll be able to feel it and maybe hear it. So right there, I think I just got up against metal. And then this is a race that goes to the slow and steady, not the swift, because if you go too fast, you're going to crack that stuff. Like that. And I think as soon as you can see that that nail is start to come up, push the wood back down, expose the head, and then go to a hammer or a flat bar or a cat's paw to try to extract that nail. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Hoping and praying always helps. All right, now, these busted nails. Here's a specialty tool. It's just for pulling nails. This is called the extractor. This is called the extractor. Part number HL1121. Look it up on the worldwide interweb. It's designed just for getting nails out. Let me get this guy to stand up. It's kind of like a mix between a pliers and a claw hammer. The jaws grab that nail, give it a squeeze, and then rock it back. Okay, so even though we lost the head on that nail, it gives us the opportunity to get it out. All right, now, let's come over here to this one. I started working on this off camera. So we're pretty loose here. And the point I want to make with this one is that if you start to destroy the head and it kind of strips out, and I think this one is about to, like that. I'm okay with that because by eliminating the head of the nail, I can pull the wood through there. Let's see if I can get that one out. You got to come up. Oh, I might be able to catch it with the cat's paw. I think we're about to strip ahead. You might have figured out this is way more of an art than a science. So hey, if you got ideas about getting these babies apart, post them in the comments. Everybody's gonna love to see them. Now, one of the things you're gonna want is a metal detector. I'm pretty sure I've got the nails out of this area, but if we want to use that rail in the project, I would definitely run a metal detector over it to make sure all the metal is out of it. I'm going to take this board I just released from captivity and run it through a sander so we can clean it up, see what it looks like, and give us some idea of why the heck are we salvaging these boards. Well, here's what we've got with that slat. One thing you want to do before you start running this through your tools, I'd take a wire brush to it and make sure all the dirt and stuff you can really see on these lower rails, just what kind of junk is built up on there. But anyway, I ran this through a surface sander and I got this side pretty well cleaned up, a little bit of the rough sawn on there. On this face, in the woodworking industry, we'd call this hit or miss, which is I sanded it some, but I didn't take it completely down to where it's cleaned up, because I think if you're after a rustic look, this is probably the kind of thing that you want. Now with the whole cat's paw thing, we're digging those claws into a face, but that's going to happen on one face. Should leave us with a back face that obviously it'll still have nail holes in it, but it doesn't have the cat paw digs. So that's my best advice, to date anyway, on getting these pallets to come apart relatively cleanly. Like I said, you got ideas, please pass them along, put them in the comments, and people would love to see what you're doing to get your pallets cleanly taken apart.